So pro tip, you got to take your mic off mute. So you guys should now hear me. Appreciate you mentioning that in the chat. So I'll start over. So yeah, we're painting Colette, the new Colette box, and give me just a second. So we're painting Colette out of the Colette box. I've already done all of the rest of the box. So this is the last one to go. And that's not uncommon for me to do the master last. So back to what I was saying when I was on mute, which doesn't help you a whole lot. There's a lot of choices that I need to make on her. We've got to go, the magic's got to get painted up here. We've got a lot to do as far as the feathers. There's just some really neat choices that I need to make. So color scheme is the first decision. So you'll notice I ended up, on the rest of them, I did a standard kind of violet, green, orange. So you see violet is the primary, and then if you go to the triadic, you've got orange and green. So let's take a look at her. So this is one of the other showgirls. She's already done. You can see I used the primary purple, and then the orange is coming out of the skin. There's some green, and I actually did a little bit of blue, which is a complement to the purple and the green. So she came out well. I was happy with her. Let me just quickly show you another showgirl. Here's another one where you can see again, I went primary purple on her, but you can see the green, and I used the orange and brought out the orange to really differentiate her on the other one. So what are we going to do with her? Well, I'm going to do what I always do first, which is I'm going to paint the face. So we'll start there. I see Pete, you're in the chat there, bud, and you said you're painting MCP. Did I know you were getting into MCP? Is that new, or have you always been into MCP and I just didn't know it? All right, so first off, we need to outline the eyes. So we're going to use model color black. You can use any black, obviously. Not going to need much. We'll get a good brush. I'm just going to go with Artis Opus. I got to tell you, my favorite brushes right now are the ones from Artis Opus as well as the ones from Redgrass. Both of them are not the cheapest brushes you're going to buy, but I think they're the best brushes in the market right now as far as how long they last and the quality that you get from them. All right, now the last thing I need to do is put on my glasses because I'm an old man. So there, now I look funny. All right, so the eyes. Now the sculpt on this is really nice. She's got surprisingly good definition on the eyes, but they are tiny because it's a Malifaux model. So what I'm going to do is just try to outline the eyes. I don't have to paint the eyes white because I primed her white. So I know the angle I'm painting is a little tough. And this is going to look shockingly sloppy, but you'll see in a second why it doesn't matter. All I'm doing is just outlining at the very basic areas around the eyes. Okay? Almost giving her kind of a raccoon look there. So what I've done is I've defined the eyes. So now, why am I starting on such a fine detail such as the eyes? The reason I do that, Cella TV, is I paint out and in, I paint in to out. So the best way for me to explain that is whatever is the deepest layer on the miniature, in this case her eyes, and then I'm going to do her skin next, then I'll start doing the clothing. For me, it's how I've always painted. I know some people don't paint that way, but for whatever reason I paint from inside the miniature out. Wish I had a better answer for you. But let's finish up these eyes. So now, let's make sure we got a decent amount of thinning going on here. I don't want this to be huge. Now I'm just going to do a vertical line to create the pupil. So I'll test it on my skin. and we'll create the pupil. And holy cow, that looks terrible, doesn't it? But you watch, I'm going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up now when we get into the flesh itself. So next, I'm actually, before I leave this black, I'm going to put a little bit of shading, pre-shading between on her lip area here. So just get a little bit of pre-shading between the lips. And now basically she looks like the Joker. But as I now get to the flesh, you'll see that that works. Okay, so now let's talk about the flesh I'm going to use. We're going to use base flesh from AK Interactive. It's AK 3011. I only own some of their weathering, like rust washes and stuff like that. And I noticed they had a flesh set, and I got it, which means I have like 7 different flesh sets now from 7 different companies, I think. But I like it. I like their flesh. I like how it blends. It definitely works well for me. So I'll get a little bit on the palette. You can see it's pretty thick. So what I've got here, my little medicine bottle, is 50-50 water and flow improver. And one thing that I do differently than some other painters you're going to see is I mix my paint as I go. So you'll notice I've got my flow improver here, I've got my paint here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mix as I go. And the reason I do that is because I'm using a wet palette, the longer my paint is on the wet palette, the more diluted it's going to get. So if I pre-mix it, it's going to ruin the consistency. But if I kind of mix as I go, I can keep up with the wet palette itself. So now we're going to paint the base coat the skin after we take a sip of sake. All right. So, a little bit of flow improver, add it to the paint, get the consistency I want, load the brush, and let's start painting skin. So, I'm actually going to kind of block out the skin on the arms and under the dress here. I want to know where the flesh is going to be. So we'll do the easy stuff first. A lot of times when I paint midtones first, and then I will paint down and up, right? So I'll paint the mid-tone, and then I'll, go darker for the shading, and then I'll go lighter for the highlights. For whatever reason, I have always painted dark to light with my flesh tones. And I think it's habit more than anything. I don't know why I tend to do it different with flesh tones, but I do. So this is going to be the darkest dark we're going to see for her. And surprisingly, she doesn't have as much flesh as you might initially think. So she's got a little bit here in the, the arm and the chest, obviously. We've got a little bit on the back. This is just the first coat, just kind of blocking in the color. All I'm worried about is laying down the layer that'll end up being the shade. And because I thin my paints, when I paint the next layer, it'll be semi-translucent, so it will, leave some of the shade in here. And the more layers I put on and the brighter I go, that's how the highlights are going to get built up. So we've got a little bit of flesh here above her stockings, so let's put that in there. Okay. All right, so now let's clean up this face. For those of you watching on YouTube or Twitch, if the only thing I'm watching is the Twitch chat, so if you have a question for me, you want to talk about something, feel free to hop over to Twitch and hop into the chat so that I can see what your thoughts are. Sella says, I'm very good. I'm very glad you're doing this because I have 4 Colettes to paint eventually. Oh, wow. Wow. What? I'd be curious, which editions do you have of the Colettes? Do you have the newest sculpts, the 2E sculpt, which actually was a fine sculpt. I think this is a much superior sculpt. I'd be curious to know which ones you have, Sella. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overpaint the black, essentially erasing the raccoon eyes that I've created on her, but leave what'll end up being just a black line surrounding it and then her pupils. Oh yeah, the Avatar Colette is amazing. Hats off to you for getting one. So now I'm just kind of slowly painting in and going back over the black, but leaving a little bit of the black so that she has her eyes painted. And this is a neat trick to do, you know, that black lining effect is you do, you know, kind of the sloppy black, and then you go back and essentially erase it. There, let's see. I don't know if you can see that or not, but see how I fixed her eye? She no longer has that raccoon eye. I'm gonna try to zoom in, because I really want you to see that. Let's see if I can get it in focus. It might be too much for the camera. Hold on. I got too excited. No, that's what I get for getting fancy here. Let's go back to where it was. All right, so try to get it so you can see that. Hopefully you can see how I fixed her right eye left of me. But essentially erasing those raccoon eyes, but I left the lining on her eye as well as the pupil that I painted in there. So a lot of times people think when they're painting eyes that they have to be super careful and super particular. That's just not the case, because you can always erase by painting over the color. So, all right. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Just painting in. And by doing that, I'm just going to slowly paint over most of the black, leaving just a little bit around the eye to again give that black lining effect. There we go. Let's get her neck under her chin. We're gonna pretty much, and then we're just going to go back and do just one more base coat on the flesh that I already laid down. But we will be well on our way to start detailing the flesh. So the question earlier was, you know, why start with the detail? And I talked about painting in to out. One of the benefits of painting, you know, the flesh and the face and stuff first for me is you'll notice that I'm sloppy, right? So I've painted over some of her top, and you know, I can spill over and not be real particular and perfect with it because I'll be painting that next. So I'll be painting the next layer up. Whereas if I was doing that last, I'd have to kind of get in there and paint. So that's why I paint in and out. Okay, again, those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, feel free to hop over here to Twitch and join us. This is where the chat's occurring. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any comments you guys are leaving live on Facebook or on YouTube. So now I'm just doing, again, another layer of the base coat of the skin. Okay, there we go. Much darker than it's going to be, but that's the start, right? And again, what I could have done is I could have very easily gone with her mid-tone color and then painted down for the shaded areas and paint up for the highlighted areas. But again, for whatever reason, this is how I've always painted flesh. So let's play a little bit more. Let's go next up. So that was the base flesh. Now I'm going to add this light flesh from AK. This is the AK 3012 light flesh. We're going to use that to mix it. Give it a good shake. And now I'm still going to use the same flow improver that I had before. I've still got that pool, so we'll use that to thin, and then let's start blocking in this next layer. Looks like this separated a little bit. Let's give it another mix here on the palette. Looks like I should have shook this a little bit better. Should be all right though. Let's see. So now we're just going to go to the top areas, and I'm just going to kind of block it in. Now, you'll notice here that, again, I'm not yet being super precise. Right now, what I'm concerned about is blocking in where I want this layer to show and where I want to leave the shades in. I'm going to worry about the transitions later. Right now, I need to know where the paint's going to go first. So I'm not super concerned about this being smooth and you know, pretty yet, because I'm not even exactly sure where I want that paint to go. So let's just block it in, and essentially I'm just painting from the top as if I was the light itself, right? Do the same thing on the legs, adding this next layer. And again, because this light flesh has been thinned, you're going to notice that on this first coat, you know, a good bit of the base flesh is still showing through, which is exactly, that's on purpose. Now what that means is it's going to take me, you know, multiple layers to build this up, but that's okay. I'm not trying to win a race here. I'm trying to paint a model that was commissioned. So I want the person who commissioned it to be very happy, so I'm going to take my time with it. If this is my 50th Space Marine, I would not be taking my time with it. Alright, so now let's start blocking the face. So what's going to happen on the face here is her chin. Let's make sure you guys can see this. We're going to hit her chin. The top of her nose and the top of her cheeks. And again, I'm not super concerned yet about how smooth this is, because This is just blocking in where this color is going to be. I'm not going to leave behind a whole lot of that dark color because she's going to eventually be... I definitely want a lighter complexion on her, so I'm definitely doing a lot of building up, but I will leave behind, as each layer comes up, I'll leave behind more and more, and that'll give me those nice transitions that I'll definitely want for the end product. So again, just slowly starting to have it come together. Let's do another, let the face dry a little bit. Let's do another thin coat on the legs. Notice I am not, when I'm doing the second coat, I'm not going as far and covering as much as I did the first time, and that's going to give me the nice transition from the darker. I want it darker the closer it is to the skirt, because the skirt's going to shade it a little bit, right? So each layer I'm going to do a little less coverage on it, and it's going to give that nice blend. You're going to find that I don't do things like wet blending. I either layer or glaze. I think wet blending is a great technique. I think it takes too long, and I can get the same effect with glazing and painting with thin paints and multiple layers. That's just me. So, no offense if you're a huge fan of wet blending. Let's do the tops of her arms. Slowly the skin is going to start getting some depth. And the shading that I needed. So again, I'm hitting the same areas I did before because this is my second coat. So we're going to hit the tops of the cheeks, the nose, the bottom of the chin, slowly building it up. And after you've done it, I mean, she doesn't look great right now, but I'm not done. And one of the things that you learn and have to be patient with is, you know, a lot of times to get things to look nice and smooth, it's not going to look good until you're done, until the last coat is put on there, that last highlight, you know. So those of you listening and watching, what are you guys working on right now? Any of you guys and gals painting? If you're not painting, what are you playing these days? All right. Nightmare Terror and Friends, very nice. That Nightmare Terror box is great. I've got that box. That should be a lot of fun. What is Dueling Streams, Wookie Gunner? I've never heard of that. Okay, this is the third layer on the legs. The legs are really starting to lighten up nicely for me. Oh, hey, J.K. Ray. Hey, I appreciate it, man. I'm glad that you've been enjoying the stuff we're putting out. And you got, oh, Infamous is good. And Canon, oh, boy, you've got all kinds of fun stuff coming, man. Boy, Big Hat is strong. You're really going to enjoy Big Hat, Ray. I think Big Hat may be one of the strongest keywords of all of them, to be honest with you. So, yeah, welcome to Malifaux, man. It's a great game. Oh, dueling streams, like literally you have 2 streams going? That's funny. I appreciate me being one of them. Though it's possible that you have a vested interest in this one. So when you watch a stream from a Ren Fair group, what do they do on the stream? Just kind of chat, or are you talking about costumes? And I don't know much about Renaissance Fair stuff. I've always found it fascinating, but never gone to a couple, I think. But I know that people that participate in Renaissance Fairs are wicked into it. So guys, I'm not really talking that much about what I'm doing because I've already told you I'm just layering, and each time I'm adding a layer, it's increasing the opacity of the next color, and I'm painting a little bit less of, covering it a little bit less each time, so it gives me kind of that nice gradation. So already you can see how much lighter her skin has gotten, but you can also start to see, like under the arm is the old paint, right? And you see how we're starting to build those blends up. I love the little smirk that this Colette sculpt has. It's real subtle. You almost don't see it unless you're painting. I'm going to really do what I can to try to emphasize that as I build her face up, because I think it's a really nice touch in the sculpt. Oh, that's cool, man. Very, very cool. So it's a kind of the performers. And I just realized that I just said they're performers as I paint Colette. Ba-dum-bum. Wow. Sella TV, I really appreciate that. I'd be curious, though, from J.K. Ray, how did you find Malifaux? So what got you stopping playing whatever you were playing and got you to start looking and discovering Malifaux? By the way, you'll never leave it because it's the best game there is, obviously. I'm a huge fan. But I'd be curious to know how you found it. Oh, yeah. I thought the cards, Ray, sounded stupid too the first time. You'll hear me mention it a lot of time on the podcast where I thought that the cards were a gimmick. Turns out I think cards are one of the best things about the game. One of several things that I love. You'll get really used to having a control hand. And when you go back to playing games with dice, you're like, can I cheat in a 6? Having that extra agency is really nice. It's a neat part of the game. All right, guys, we are almost done with this color. I'm going to do some final touches to bring this up. But she's starting to look good. Wild West Exodus, I hear, is a good game. I hear there's a little bit of clunkiness in it, but I have never played it. But I've got buddies that are fans. I've got some of their terrain. I like what they put out for terrain. Yeah, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, exactly, Donald. I don't have people that are suck at dice. Everybody gets the same cards. So if you're bad at dice, you'll end up doing it. All right, guys, I am pretty much done with the first two layers, or the first two colors on her. You know, what we've really done is we've kind of defined that. So now it's going to be a matter of doing the last highlights, and that's what's going to really bring it to life. Ray, it's interesting you say it's not a really good competitive game. I've actually, tomorrow I'm recording for the pod a roundtable with two game designers and a player that I'm a huge fan of, James Doxey, and then the Jamie Perkins from Steam Forged Games, and James Baldwin from Drowned Earth. They're coming on tomorrow to record, and the subject is competitive versus casual gaming. We're going to really kind of dissect exactly what that means, so that you'll probably see that episode come out in like December or January. But I'd be curious to know what makes a game casual or competitive for you, Ray. Oh, Pete, you got into Infinity too? Oh, good lord. Oh, so I just realized that the Twitch chat is showing comments from Pete, but I'm not seeing those comments on the Twitch feed I'm seeing. So that's interesting. So Pete, I have not been paying attention to your tweet, and I've been answering stuff. So I'm not sure. I'll check it here during the break and figure out why what I've labeled as Twitch chat is not showing what I think is all of the Twitch chat coming in. So I'll figure that out. What's going on there? Or for some reason, Pete, maybe I'm not seeing yours in the main feed. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Looks like, but I see Wookiee Hunters in there. Okay. All right, so let's do this last layer. I'm just sitting here running my mouth and not painting, which is real exciting for you guys. So, to recap real quick, we started here with the base flesh from AK. Then I brought it up with the light flesh. And then you can see at the bottom here, we're now going to the next layer up, which is a very pale flesh, which is the AK 3013, the highlight flesh. So unlike the last one, I'm going to shake the bejesus out of this to make sure that it's nice and mixed for me. So, God, Pete, I don't know why I'm not seeing your. I see yours in the feed, but when I look at like the actual chat window, for some reason Pete is not showing up in the chat window. I don't know why. Weird. Oh, you're in Facebook, so it's picking up your Facebook chat, Pete. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So it's integrating them. Good, 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 good. I didn't realize that the Facebook chat was coming through, so that makes me happy. All right. So I will try to keep an eye on there to catch your comments as well, Pete. For those of you listening, that's Rage Quit Pete from Rage Quit Wire, one of my favorite gaming podcasts. Him and his partner Chris, co-host Chris, they put out really good stuff, man. Really good stuff. Well, it's funny you say that, but they do have alt boxes for Ulix that are ponies, that are basically My Little Ponies. So we can joke about a My Little Pony minigame, but Wyrd's already beat you to it. All right. So now we're going to do the last highlight. What happened to my palette camera? Did it turn off on me? Hold on one second. Get that back up. There we go. So here, down here, you can see I did the next layer. This is where the magic's going to happen. This is when she is really going to start coming alive. I think I'm going to go with a different brush. Something with a better point for me. Let's go with this 000 from Artis Opus. So this is the Artis Opus 000. It's got a real nice point on it. Like I said earlier, right now there's only two companies that I think are putting out the best brushes for the dollars, and that is Artis Opus and Redgrass. Redgrass is brand new to the game, and man, Their brushes are phenomenal. All right. So now, we're really going to be careful and judicious in this last highlight, because when it comes to your final highlight, less is always more. Same thing with any final shading you do. If you overdo it, then you end up just creating a new, base layer. It's not really highlighted at that point. So you'll notice it's very thin. And I'm painting a much smaller area than I did before. God, for what I'm doing, I wonder if I'm better off switching cams. Hold on a second. That might be a better cam while I'm painting this angle. I'll try it on this cam for a little while. You guys, let's see if it's better for you guys. If not, I'll switch back to the picture-in-picture cam. But for what, I keep hitting my head on the damn thing though. For what I'm painting right now, that might be a better angle. Yeah, Bert, it really is a beautiful sculpt. I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. Yeah, you'll be very happy with those red grass, Sella. Those red grass are phenomenal brushes. Phenomenal brushes. I mean, I guess that angle isn't so bad, right? Yeah, the lighting does seem a little bit better on this camera. Let's keep it on here for now, then. So you can see I'm just starting to put in the final highlights here. On this camera, you might have a better chance. You can kind of see how I fixed her raccoon eyes. I forgot where I first saw that technique, and for me, it's like erasing, right? You paint sloppy and then you paint around it to fix it. I do it all the time. So I'm just slowly going to build up the face. Thinning, then loading the brush. So here's another thing that you'll notice is that I always paint with the side of my brush. We often think we have to poke at the model with the tip of the brush, and you don't. You really should paint with the side of the brush. I mean, I've only seen. The question is what are my thoughts? Initial thoughts on Explorers. I love the art. You know, I've only really seen Cooper's cards. I purposely don't participate in betas. And the reason I don't participate in betas is so I can talk about stuff on the show and not, like an idiot, mistakenly give up information without realizing it. You know, it's easy to forget when you're in a beta what's been released, what hasn't been released. Guys, I'm going to mess with this other camera here for just a second and see if I can't get it a little bit better. So give me just a second. Chat amongst yourselves. The art that I've seen so far for them, though, is just so good. I think they're going to have a lot of really nice flavor. Let's see how that looks as a second angle. So I've got that angle there. Let me just get her, this camera. Yeah, the lighting is much better that way, so give me just a second. All right, and then if I switch back and do the picture-in-picture, let's see how that looks. I can always go back, right? And I appreciate you guys' patience as I kind of get this worked out. Now, it covers my face, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'll put on my glasses. All right. Yeah, I got some more messing around to do on this camera setup. I got these cameras set up. I can't get my freaking head in there to paint her. I like the other camera better. So let's just do that on the camera. Sorry, guys. Got these two cameras converging and I can't freaking get my head in there to paint. All right. Enough messing around. Let's do this final highlights. Let's get the skin done. Have to do is stop hitting it, though. So I bought, part of what's happening here, guys, I bought a brand new desk, a new paint desk, so my whole setup is a lot different. Things are in different places, so it's my first time with this new setup, so I apologize. Things will get much better. Alright, can you kind of see how her face is starting to come alive a little bit? There's some blending to do, but we're starting to kind of see that the depth that I wanted and that fair skin I was really going for. So Malfoy Rex, how do you base it so that 0-inch models are actually able to engage it? I mean, I'm going to keep it on the same base and, you know, just rotate it. I don't stress about that as much as other people do. But you could also, I mean, if worse comes to worse, you could definitely just go in there and use a blank base or a proxy base if things got really crazy and tight. I love the size of the thing. I mean, he's huge. And he's got such a different look from anything else than we've seen, which is so exciting. It's part of what's great about Malifaux, is just the array of styles of miniatures that you get to choose from. It's just so much more than almost any other game out there, the variety. Locking in all those light areas there. Long ways to go, but the contrast is there. What will happen next is I'm going to go in and I will blend it and smooth out all of the different areas. But looking at the time, I'm going to probably get scooting here. But that was kind of a good first session on Miss Colette. We got a little ways to go on her. I'm going to try to do most of her on live stream. Kind of just depends on my schedule and what I've got going on. But I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys and gals, and those that are watching the recording, I appreciate it. I guess that's it. Appreciate it. And those of you that stuck around, take care. Make sure you like and follow.